Hey guys, for any Marvel fan, it's probably the age-old question. And no, it isn't the Team Iron Man versus Team Captain America one, which we've already done. You guys should definitely check that out. So our first Marvel debate, actually our first ever debate. Anyway, this one is on Avengers Infinity War versus Avengers Endgame. Which is better? So let's get straight into this one. But before we do, please like and subscribe and comment down below with your thoughts. Which one is better, Infinity War or Endgame? For this debate, I'm arguing that Infinity War is better, and Ellie and Grace are arguing that Endgame is better. And Grace is going to start.
Right, so what I like about Endgame is that we get to revisit some of the MCU's best moments before the film. So and because of that, it also allowed a few of our main characters to have some closure during midway of the film, such as like Tony talking to his past dad and learning about like his mistakes and telling him what's best about being a dad. Steve seeing Peggy again, which was really emotional, and Thor talking to his deceased mother, which was also emotional as well. So I thought that was really sweet moments. And also seeing the New York fight from a different perspective, it was really cool. It also gave Ant-Man a chance to become like a very memorable hero within the team because he's always been like a solo, like street fight hero. But he was a key moment for the plot of Endgame because without him, they would have not time travel. So he's basically the reason why the Earth is saved and why the whole universe is saved. So I think that's pretty cool. It also gave like a worthy ending of Thanos because this character has been building up from phase one to phase two to phase three, becoming like the biggest, baddest bad guy ever. And it's been a one. It has been a huge imagination for other people about how is he gonna end or how is he gonna die. And seeing him getting a taste of his own medicine was quite a worthy worthy ending, especially by the hands of Iron Man. And the final battle was pitch perfect. Getting to see that the Avengers not just won and brought everyone back, but we also get to see two great things that we wanted to happen. One, Captain America's famous quote, Avengers assemble. And we also get to see another quote by Iron Man when he says, I am Iron Man. Like, so yeah, I think Endgame was like a roller coaster. Was technically like a time travel roller coaster for the characters as well. It brought in a lot of emotions. We saw a lot of like there was a lot of sadness with like through deaths with Natasha and Tony, but also we get to see some of the characters growing through the film with like Steve and Tony reconnecting their relationship and also getting to see all the characters back together and seeing like this is kind of like an open ending to phase four about what's going to happen to the other characters, like Sam becoming Captain America, Spider-Man being a bit more of a different kind of hero to like trying to be inspired by Iron Man. And there's just so many things. And I think Endgame, I don't know, I just think it's really was better. And I think it just took our breath away when watching this film. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
Oh
Grace
yeah.
covered a lot of it, but just kind of already not kind of repeating, but also kind of going off what she said. But
Mm,
Endgame, in a way, was the perfect beginning and ending to the next phase and our old phase. Like that end scene had every Marvel fan and people who weren't even a fan of Marvel on the edge of their seat. The portals opening, like nowhere ever is going to be able to recreate a scene like
yeah.
that. We were all in shock, and it's such a memorable thing for the fan base. And I feel like it was the perfect way to end it all. We're having everyone together, all of our heroes, all in one place, defending the universe as they always have. But this time, they're all there, and we get a scene from all of them, and they're all in there somewhere. And if you look close enough, your favorite one is in there, and I'm sure they did get a couple of seconds, if not longer, of them being incredible. And
Mm,
while we did have to say goodbye to a lot of characters, some we might not have wanted to, some didn't get the ending we wanted them to have, or didn't deserve to have an ending at all. It was still, I feel like done in a way that was just to everyone. Like, no one's going to be happy with everything. They can't please everyone, but they try to do it in a way that all of our characters were appreciated, and they didn't just kind of bin them off and be like, right, he's done with, let's move on. They all had their reasons. It wasn't just ended, and I feel like that's why Endgame had such a good end, because it brought such a big beginning. So many new things. Emily, go on, then, I'm scared.
What's that, Ellie?
Okay,
Thank you.
It's okay. I agree with you guys. Endgame was an amazing end, and like Ali said, a start as well to a new universe. But in comparison to Infinity War, I think Infinity War just stands out a lot more to me. It's just one of those films that I could watch once every month, twice every month, whatever. So my first point is that there was more hype for Endgame, which let it down. So I'm not saying that Endgame wasn't a great film, like I just said. There was a lot of anticipation for this film, though, especially as it was going to be the last film for Phase 3, the last film for the Infinity Saga, and more importantly, the last film for key characters like Iron Man and Captain America. And because of this hype, it kind of got brought down when it ended, as there was nothing more really to look forward to. So, did it really live up to its expectations? And then in comparison to Infinity War ended on a massive cliffhanger, which made the wait for Endgame unbearable. I don't even think unbearable sums it up, because it was honestly excruciating pain. And that just brought up that hype for Endgame. So that hype was created basically because of Infinity War. So it was a stepping stone, basically. My second point, it's a closing of a chapter. Like I said before, Endgame was the end of an incredible story, so that makes it difficult for it to be better than Infinity War in some sense. On a personal level, Grace and Ellie will back me up here. I mean, they've already said it for another debate. But I hate.
Don't rope me into that.
No? Okay. You don't want to back me up on that one?
I thought you were going somewhere
change.
else. I thought you were going to say we were losing.
Yeah,
And I was like, no.
yeah.
No.
She does. She hates change.
I hate it. So for people like me, knowing that Endgame will mean massive change, with our lead six changing, with some of them completely disappearing as well, it does make it difficult for me to enjoy Endgame. And since watching Endgame in 2019, I have not watched the whole movie since. I have only ever watched it once. How many times have you watched it, Ellie?
Don't count me into it. I'm bad with Marvel films at the moment.
Okay, will you say more than twice? More than twice.
Yeah, I think I have.
Grace, have you watched the whole movie more than twice since?
Yeah, I say more than twice. Like, I've been watching their key moments on YouTube as well.
But the whole
because
movie, the whole movie, in a whole, the whole movie.
Well, to be honest, I haven't watched the whole movie for twice for Infinity War either. So it's like, I just watched like the best moments, like the key moments that really got our attention.
Okay. I mean, on a personal level, I just can't. There's many reasons for this, and I'll be going through some of them later. But one of them is because it means change. With Infinity War, though, there isn't this problem for me. Sure, there was change, but we knew it wasn't the end, and it didn't need to end the story for these characters. And instead, it developed it, and it told the story of Thanos going around and collecting the Infinity Stones. Okay, this leads me on to my next one. Iron Man dies, which Ellie covered. We've done a debate on this as well, which you guys should check out on who should have died at the end of Endgame, Iron Man or Captain America. So do check that one out. But basically, to sum up that debate, I said that Iron Man shouldn't have died. And that is the other reason why I just haven't been able to watch Endgame since. Killing Iron Man, I understand why they did it, but it doesn't mean that I have to like it, right? And that is why I prefer Infinity War, as it didn't mean the end of Iron Man and other characters as well. Okay, the next point, the ending. So even before Endgame came out, we knew that someone was going to die. We knew it was either going to be Captain America or Iron Man. And because of this, the ending wasn't really a shock, and it wasn't really surprising. Whereas we didn't know that half of the universe would be snapped away at the end of Infinity War, and the original six and other characters like Ant-Man, Nebula, and Rocket would have to try and reverse this. So the cliffhanger from Infinity War makes the movie more satisfying to watch and more interesting. But it also helps to build up the hype, which again brings me up to my first point. I mean, if we go back through the other movies, the heroes have never lost a battle at the end, with a cliffhanger left on what is going to happen. So this difference also does make it stand out. I mean, the scene of some of the Avengers like Groot and Spider-Man turning to dust, it shocked people. I remember seeing clips of people absolutely crying. You guys cried. I feel like Grace cried for sure.
I think I definitely did.
Yeah, I feel like I more gasped than cried, but yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that people didn't cry for Tony's death, because definitely people did. But was anyone expecting Spider-Man to die? And Endgame pretty much, its sole purpose was to wrap up Infinity War's story, whilst also wrapping up the Infinity Saga. So it had a big task to do. Okay, next one. A long time. Endgame was just over 3 hours long, and Infinity War was 2 hours and 29 minutes long. So I know sometimes people don't mind about run times and stuff. I mean, there have been films I've watched that are longer than 3 hours, but Endgame to me felt really long. And I know I was waiting. I know I was waiting in that cinema to find out who was going to die. That was literally probably my only reason. If I'm really thinking about it now, what was my main reason for watching that movie? Of course, was so that I didn't get the spoilers. It was of course wanting to see what was going to happen, but my main reason was to see who on earth was going to die. And I was like, fingers crossed, Captain America and everything. Yeah, anyway.
God, that's hard.
But a long time does, it does bring down our enjoyment, as we just want it to end. And it also does make us lose our attention. Whereas even though it was only 30 minutes less longer, Infinity War had constant action, and we had no clue whatsoever what was going to happen. Again, linked to that last point I made, which made it watching it even more enjoyable, especially again with that cliffhanger it left us with. My next point is that Endgame didn't have a proper villain. So one of the formulas of Marvel movies are heroes, villains, side characters, etc. So the movies in Phase 1 and 2 set up Thanos' arrival, and when we saw him in Infinity War and saw the force he brought, it made us enjoy him as a villain who who makes sense in a way, but whose approach is wrong. Like, we understand his reasons, right? But Endgame barely had Thanos in it. He was barely in it. He was, for Infinity War, he was there pretty much for all of it. It started off with him at the beginning on Thor's ship and ended with him in his garden. And Infinity War was our first time we actually saw this villain that had been teased properly. Sorry, that had been teased, but in very small little bits here and there, which brought up that hype as well, because we were always wondering, like, what on earth is going on with Thanos? What is he going to do? We knew he was going to be linked to the Infinity Stones, but we didn't know what exactly was going to happen. And that just made it more satisfying and interesting to see, and, for him to actually finally come and appear. But for Endgame, it felt like they just had to include Thanos just to finish up that story. And he didn't really have like a proper purpose to appear. I mean, he only really appeared when they were cutting off his head and right at the end as well for the end fight. The next point is that there's a great balance of different characters and groups. So Endgame had so many characters appear at the end, which I guess you can give your opinion on if that scene was overhyped or not. But what we see in Infinity War is that all of these characters are balanced out really well. And they appear in a perfect amount of time, and they're set up really well. Their relationship with these new characters that they meet, it's all set up really nicely. And there was enough time spent on each character. Whereas Endgame, even though most of the movie had less people, it didn't feel like the characters went anywhere. And the portal scene, now looking at it, was a bit too much and overshadowed different characters and was hard to balance.
You loved that scene, don't lie.
I loved that scene originally, but now thinking about it, not.
Now you want
Sorry, the portal scene was over that. Are you serious? Honestly,
I think a little bit.
Nonsense.
My next point is stakes. Infinity War had so many stakes. Thanos is unstoppable and he's one step ahead of the heroes. Thinking about Thanos, when he goes to get the Reality Stone, he's already got it. When the Guardians get there, they didn't know that, right? But he already had it. And the movie literally ends with him winning, and most of the Avengers, and the other teams just disappearing and they're defeated. And there's this like sense of urgency for something to happen. And we see the personal stakes for different characters, like Thor trying to get revenge, from losing Loki and all of his fellow Guardians and everything. Even perhaps in a sense, Odin as well, because that also had a tie-in effect. Gamora trying to stop her father, Iron Man saving Doctor Strange, and then stopping Thanos, who he had actually seen coming. Like there's so much things, like personal stakes as well. And whilst I'm not saying Endgame did not have its stakes, it did. It kind of didn't as well in a sense. Like the events in Endgame had already happened, so there wasn't anything they could really lose. Like everybody had already disappeared. There wasn't anything more that they could really lose, right? It was just them trying to reverse it and bring everybody back. My final point is that there are some really amazing, epic, jaw-dropping scenes in Infinity War. Gamora being sacrificed, that is one of the scenes that still haunts me to this day because it's honestly devastating. But there are some better scenes than that. Thor's arrival in Wakanda. That scene, that entrance of him just, coming down and when all hope is lost. Amazing. When the Guardians meet the Avengers, that scene, Spider-Man and Mantis, don't put your eggs in me and all that. It honestly cracks me up. Why Gamora? Who's Gamora? That, Thor forging Stormbreaker, Captain America appearing in Scotland. Yes, I even made a Captain America one there. But but thinking about Endgame, there were definitely less scenes, at least for me, that I found, that were really standout scenes. I mean, we see that scene, Thor is still worthy. I love that one. Portal scene, I know, I've included that one. Captain America is actually worthy. I still don't know how I feel about that one. I know why they did it. I am Iron Man, Baby Ant-Man, that one really does stand out to me. But I think personally for me, the whole of Infinity War had just more interesting, exciting scenes that really brought the story forward.
No, I have to disagree. There has been some jaw-dropping scenes in Endgame as well. So, like you said before, but the jaw-dropping scene was like Natasha sacrificed herself. That was traumatic for me personally. The portals were great as well, but also seeing all the characters reunite us again. There were some funny bits about Peter reuniting with Gamora, but the wrong Gamora, and he got kicked in the nuts. And then Captain Marvel's entrance when she destroys Thanos' ship, that was pretty cool. And yeah, Ant-Man returns, and then also Captain America first thing past Captain America, and I'm trying to remember. You said so many points, and I'm trying to keep track of like what I
Sorry.
would say. The first one, you said there was a lot more action and there was a big cliffhanger, which I kind of agree that there wasn't much action in Endgame, but I feel like we did have more cliffhangers. So such as the past Loki escaped, so that leads to the big opening of the TV show Loki. And yeah, I think that was pretty exciting to wait for that. Then we have the excitement for Sam's new role as Captain America. You also said there wasn't high stakes, which I mean there was sort of a high stake that they were gonna mess up the timeline if they like change anything in the past, and that they wouldn't come back to the original future. While Thanos wasn't a big threat in Endgame like he was in Infinity War, it was a big shock when when the Hulk small Hulk used the goblet to snap everyone back to life, and then everyone thought, oh, it's fine, we hear the birds chirping and all that. I think Hawkeye gets a phone call from one of his from his family, I think his wife or daughter, and then suddenly bam bam Thanos ships bombs like the whole mansion. So that was a bit of a twist, and just seeing that, it just kind of makes you think, oh my God, they thought they were all okay, but now the past is coming back to haunt them, and now they're gonna really mess up the timeline. So there were a few kind of big stakes now happening at that moment. It was near the end, but they were saving up for the big final fight. Yeah, that's what I can remember. Ellie, want to back me up?
Sorry, it got noisy and now I still have to mute. I can only agree with what you've said. Like, Emily's point, I do get, and I can see how you would think that in some things, and there are like slight things that I maybe would agree with. However, as a whole, I feel like both films had very memorable moments. They just focused on different things. So Infinity War was a little bit more action packed, but Endgame we kind of got to see more.
Like a venture in a way. Like they just weren't fighting, but they were just traveling from one mission to another in a way.
It was kind of like, in a way it was more about the characters coming to an end, as in Endgame. It was about the characters coming to an end, and it was just kind of to make that full circle. So depending on how you want to view the films and what you want to view it as, I was obviously going to bring your perspective in, and everyone's going to have different opinions on it, but it's just what you preferred, I guess. And the end, Endgame was to bring it all to an end, and it did manage to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you guys do make some points. So why would you say Infinity War isn't better then? So what was wrong with Infinity War then? Why is it not better than Endgame?
Honestly, like I love the action pack in it. I feel like it was all just action pack. Like one scene it was fighting, another scene it was fighting, another scene was fighting. It was like Iron Man fighting in New York, then Wanda fighting in Scotland, then Captain America fighting in Wakanda, and then Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Man and Iron Man fighting in space. Like it was just one bit after the other. In Endgame, they kind of like take their time and just replay the story a bit, if you know what I mean.
Well,
Like try
that's
to
the
get
urgency though. The urgency for like trying to stop Thanos though, isn't it? All of
yeah,
this stuff
and yeah, I
happening.
know, but I felt like in Infinity War, no one had really had enough time to like talk or like just try to have enough time for them just to reconnect or just like just be in the same room and talk. In like Endgame, we see the aftermath of everyone grieving for the lost. Like Hawkeye's on a mission to like just kill criminals, like to deal with his grief. Steve is in counseling. Tony's moved on and he's got a daughter of his own. Natasha is still trying to hold everything together, and Hulk just became smart Hulk. And Thor is just Thor in New Asgard. I don't know what else it is
Thor is
called.
just Thor.
Sure.
but
Minding
like
his
I
business.
just feel like they're just bringing the normal human emotions just for us to reconnect with our characters. We don't need to sit back, relax, and watch them fight. We just need to watch them and see how they're grown and see how they're struggling. I think that's really gets us feeling a bit more empathetic towards our main characters.
So the only reason why Infinity War is not better than Endgame is because there was too much action.
A little bit, yes.
A little bit too much action.
Yes.
Interesting.
Ellie,
I mean, that's your personal opinion. I can't say anything about it. I mean, I personally don't think there was too much action. I think it was actually quite balanced out. There were moments where, they were having jokes and they were just, the dance off that Star-Lord is trying to tell them about. And, there's these little bits. But of course, it's very difficult to have everything connecting, because the thing is, like, Thanos is going around and they need to move so quickly. Like, it is a rush against time because they want to protect the universe. So there's no time for like, let's have a cup of tea and let's catch up on what's going on in the past 5 days and stuff.
But also plus Endgame actually involves Ant-Man and Hawkeye. They weren't in Infinity War, so I don't know. It's nice to be included.
I don't know. I think I'm just gonna have to leave that one there. There's nothing more I can add on that one. I mean, yeah, of course it's nice to see more characters, but it's also great seeing what on earth happened to them within that time, like what on earth happened. I mean, we knew after watching Ant-Man 2 that what happened with Ant-Man, sort of how it all connects. But yeah, so basically, I think we're all just standing in our own little corners, and I don't think there is much of a debate for this one because it's preference. There is no right or wrong answer for this one, I don't think. I think it is just preference.
Yeah. And I don't think I'd say one is worse than the other. Like I thoroughly enjoyed both. I think both just are obviously going to have their different stories and they're going to have their different focuses. Infinity War was for the fighting and it was for the action. Endgame, we got to make that connection with the characters a bit more and we got to grieve with them. We got to kind of say goodbye in a way. And it was just the different ways the stories were interrupted. Maybe if they'd done it a bit differently, it would have been an even case of bonding with the characters, grieving with the characters, and also having an equal amount of fighting in between both of that. But it was just heavily focused on those two things in two separate movies. And of course it's going to be because it was separated into two films for a reason. But again, at the end of the day, it is preference. I feel like we all do love key moments from both films. And it's just what we come to agree with, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess this is the end of the debate. Let us know in the comment section who you thought won, or if you just agree with us and you think it is kind of just a preference kind of thing at the end of the day. What film was your favourite? Why? And check out the other videos we have. Who should have died? What team you're on? We've got Disney ones in there. There's loads of different things on our channel for loads of different people. And we've got loads of different bases that we cover over there as well. So go check us out. We've got a Twitter and an Instagram that you can go check out as well. And it's guaranteed that if you follow us, we'll follow you back. So hit subscribe and hopefully we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.